Hello investors and traders. This video will explain the sentiment indicator CNN Money Fear and Greed Index. This indicator should be used with other indicators to give you a weight of evidence on the macro market. This indicator is the most useful at extreme levels, either bullish or bearish. It is also useful at intermediate market moves. We use this indicator as one of the 100 indicators in our trading system. No one indicator can make a system, but this could be used as a piece of your trading system. The Fear and Greed Index is a little different because it is composed of other indicators to give you a number. You know the catchphrase: study it, analyze it, adapt it. This ratio is a sentiment indicator. A sentiment indicator is designed to represent how a group feels about the market or economy. These market psychology-based indicators attempt to quantify sentiment in the form of figures or graphically to predict how current beliefs and positions may affect future market behavior. Sentiment indicators look at how bullish or bearish market factors and what they are thinking and feeling, which may help forecast investors' future behavior. When sentiment readings are unusually high or low, they may begin acting in a contrarian way. For example, when the investors are extremely bearish, that is often a contrary signal to sentiment indicator traders that market prices could start heading higher soon. What is the Fear and Greed Index? The Fear and Greed Index was developed by CNNMoney to measure two of the primary emotions that influence how much investors are willing to pay for stocks. The Fear and Greed Index is measured on a daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly basis. In theory, the index can be used to gauge whether the stock market is fairly priced. This is based on logic that excessive fear tends to drive down share prices, and too much greed tends to have the opposite effect. Some key takeaways. The Fear and Greed Index was developed by CNNMoney to measure two of the primary emotions that influence investors. It is based on the premise that excess fear can result in stocks trading well below their intrinsic value. The index also suggests that greed can cause stock values to rise far above what they should be worth. CNN examines 7 different factors of fear and greed and scores investors' sentiment on a scale from 0 to 100. The Fear and Greed Index works. The Fear and Greed Index is a tool used by some investors to gauge the market. It is based on the premise that excessive fear can result in stocks trading well below their intrinsic value, while at the same time, unbridled greed can result in stocks being bid up far above what they should be worth. Some skeptics dismiss the index as sound investment tool as it encourages a market timing strategy rather than a buy and hold strategy. We disagree. Market indicators that have investment sentiment are quite useful. The CNN Fear and Greed Index examines 7 different factors to establish how much fear and greed there is in the market. They are: stock price momentum, a measure of the Standard & Poor's 500 index, S&P 500, versus its 125-day moving average, MA. Stock price strength, the number of stocks hitting 52-week highs versus those hitting 52-week lows on the New York Stock Exchange. Stock price breadth, analyzing the trading volumes in rising stocks against declining stocks. Put and call options, the extent to which put options lag behind call options, signifying greed, or surpass them, indicating a fear. Junk bond demand, gauging appetite for higher risk strategies by measuring the spread between yields on investment grade bonds and junk bonds. Market volatility, CNN measures the CBOE's volatility index, VIX, concentrating on a 50-day moving average. Safe haven demand, the difference in returns for stocks versus treasuries. Each of these 7 indicators is a measured scale from 0 to 100. The index is computed by taking an equal weighted average of each of the indicators. A reading of 50 is deemed neutral, while anything higher signals more greed than usual. There is also a crypto fear and greed index that is published by the website alternative.me. According to the website, crypto market behavior is just as emotional as traditional markets. When the market is bullish, people can experience fear of missing out. Also, people often sell their coins as part of an irrational reaction to seeing red numbers. Similar to CNN index, if the index shows extreme fear, it can be a sign that investors are too worried, but this could be a buying opportunity. If the index shows that investors are getting too greedy, that means the market is due for a correction. Benefits of using the Fear and Greed Index. According to some academics, greed can affect our brains in a way that coerces us to set aside common sense and self-control and provoke change. While there is no generally accepted research on the biochemistry of greed, when it comes to humans and money, fear and greed can be powerful motivators. The Fear and Greed Index has historically been a reliable indicator of significant change in equity markets. Many investors are emotional and reactionary. Behavioral economics show decades of evidence of the effect of fear and greed on investors' decisions and present a strong case for monitoring CNN's index. History shows that the Fear and Greed Index has been a reliable indicator of a turn in equity markets. The index sank to a low of 12 in September 2008 when the S&P 500 fell to a 3-year low in the aftermath of the Lehman Brothers bankruptcy and the near demise of the insurance giant AIG. By contrast, it traded over 90 in September 2012 as a global equities rallied following the Federal Reserve's third round of quantitative easing. Plenty of pundits agree that Fear and Greed Index is a useful indicator provided that it is not only a tool used to make investment decisions. Investors are advised to keep tabs on the fear so that they can leverage buying opportunities when stocks dip and view periods of greed as potential indicator that stocks might be overvalued. Despite proponents of Fear and Greed Index, most experts agree that a buy and hold strategy is the best way to see returns in a portfolio over a long term. But the Fear and Greed Index will help you a lot. Skeptics downplay the Fear and Greed Index as a legitimate investment research tool and see it as more as a barometer of market timing. The skeptics argue that buy and hold strategy is the best way to invest in equities and worry that tools such as the Fear and Greed Index encourage investors to frequently trade in and out of stocks. History, they add, show that approach generates less favorable returns. Not everyone can paint the Picasso. Using the CNN and technical indicators and sentiment indicators will help you improve your gains. Again, what is the Fear and Greed Index? The Fear and Greed Index is a way to gauge stock market movements and whether the stocks are fairly priced. The theory is based on the logic that excessive fear tends to drive down shares and too much greed tends to have the opposite effect. How is fear and greed calculated? For the CNN Fear and Greed Index, 7 different factors are graded to establish how much fear and greed there is in the market. The 7 factors are the following: stock price momentum, stock price breadth, put and call option, junk bond demand, market volatility, and safe haven demand. How do you overcome fear and greed in trading? The best way to overcome fear and greed in trading is to develop a trading plan and then stick with it. A trading camp can prevent acting impulses. Actions that might deviate from a plan include over-leveraging, removing stops on long positions, or doubling down on losing position. Another way to decrease any emotional effective trades is to lower the trade size. Another way to reduce fear and greed is to keep a trade journal. These actions help to hold an investor accountable for their trades. Remember, the CNN Greed and Fear Index will work very good in extreme readings. When you see it reaches a 1, 2, 3-year high, it works very well. It also work very well on the intermediate term. We see many times when it reaches an intermediate move on the CNN, we can precisely time the market. Remember, one indicator does not make a system, even though there are many indicators used in the CNN Fear and Greed. We feel that this is a part of a weight of evidence that you can build a successful trading strategy. You know the catchphrase: study it, analyze it, adapt it. Peace.